Time now for our Rants and Raves of the week, and I'm going to step out of the box and go first because I have a very special rave this week for WGBH's new studio, which opened at the Boston Public Library today, right on the corner of Exeter and Boylston Street, Exeter and Boylston Street. We opened today. We had our first live broadcast. Jim and Marjorie did BPR out of there from 11 to 2 o'clock this afternoon. Mayor Marty Walsh was their first guest. We're going to be doing lots of shows out of there, podcasts, radio shows. Eventually, I hope we're going to be doing television shows, including this program, Beat the Press, out of there. We're not quite ready for television yet, but that's my rave. It's very exciting to have it there.
Can I piggyback shamelessly the political podcast that we do, The Scrum,
yes,
which
you're going to be down there this Sunday.
We're doing it at 2 o'clock on Sunday, so I'd love it if people
By the way, the
came
library is totally open. Anybody can walk into that
schools,
studio anytime from 9 in the morning until 9 at night. Just walk right in.
which should be interesting.
Yep. Yeah, it will be. All right, Dan.
I have a rave for NPR. A number of news organizations tried to do live fact-checking during the debate. NPR really went above and beyond, and really it was the technical aspects of it that were so interesting. They got the closed captioning from a video of the debate fed into a Google Doc, and then they had 50 people editing the transcript, adding comments, doing live fact-checking, and posting it. As I understand it, they were only a minute or two behind the live action.
It makes me dizzy.
It was embedded on 90 websites of public radio stations, and just NPR.org attracted 5 million views that day, which was by far the most they'd ever had.
So they're watching the thing and then watching that.
It took 50 people to do it, but it was quite an accomplishment.
All right, Joanna.
Yeah, I was going to say, I and a lot of other journalists were doing fact-checking on Twitter at that time. That's another thing it's great for. I also have a debate-related rave, and it's for Lester Holt. There was a lot of discussion last week about how he was going to do moderating the most important debate in the history of humankind. And it turns out, I think he did a very good job. He was very largely in the background. I mean, I was watching on CNN, and there was a split screen, and he was just this disembodied voice moving things along. Ran into a little bit of criticism after from the Trump campaign just for the issue of stop and frisk and when it was ruled, whether it was unconstitutional. I think the answer really is where you stop the clock. So I think that's an open question. But for the most part, he did a little bit of real-time fact-checking, which I think was appropriate. But he largely let the debate play out. He let these two characters who had plenty to say and plenty of ways to help and hurt themselves just do it.
I thought he was terrific. It was so nice not to hear the moderator cutting them off for time all the time.
There were a few times where I thought he could have jumped in and gotten better control of it, but it's easy for me to say when you're sitting at home, you go, get control.
And you kind of like, sometimes those lack of control moments are the most interesting ones.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Lila.
I have a rave for former Boston Globey Sopan Deb, who is killing it on Twitter with his coverage of Trump. He works for CBS News now, but also for New York Magazine's The Cut, which published a story yesterday about what it's like to be a female journalist covering Trump. The stuff you don't see in print, the stuff the camera doesn't catch. And
Is it different being a woman?
It seems to be, because you're hearing all this constant chatter, for lack of a better word, that's really detrimental, that's really degrading against women, and you're supposed to try to stay impartial and cover the news, and it's hard, especially now. You're hearing a lot of reports of people having post-traumatic stress syndrome and needing trigger warnings before debates. It's interesting to see what else is out there that's not being published, the other stuff that the reporters themselves are subjected to.
Lila, what is Sopan Deb's Twitter handle? Because he is, to my mind, the single best person covering the campaign period on Twitter in this election cycle.
I think so too. It's at Sopan Deb.
How do you spell that?
SOPANDEB.
Okay,
and he's
really
that.
get that right. Okay, Adam, what do you got?
I have a rave for a piece that ran in BuzzFeed by a reporter named David Noriega. It was a profile of Brigitte Gabriel. She is an anti-Islam activist. This piece was, you wouldn't like it, Emily, because it was 7,500 words, but it was absolutely terrific. It talked about how she got her start. It was a profile of her, but also a look at the way that she's become involved in this horrific case in Idaho, where 3 young Muslim refugees, I'm talking, well below 18, maybe 12, 10, 7, 15, 10, 7, something like that, are accused of raping a 5-year-old girl, and the way she came into the community and the way the community reacted. Absolutely fascinating. A lot of people have this kind of outdated stereotype of BuzzFeed as doing, 100 zany cat cupcake pictures or whatever, listicles like that. And they still do some of that, but they also do some really, really good serious journalism. And this was a fine
So
example.
has she been vilified out there, or are they?
No, they love her. They love her.
Yeah.
Well, and her life story, I mean, everyone honestly should read it, but she grew up in Lebanon. She was a Lebanese Christian and says that her family directly experienced violence at the hands of Muslims and that she is here to warn the West. Really, really interesting.
Yeah, I got to check that out. I will read it. I don't know if
Be
that'll
part
be
of it.
fun. Yeah. All right, that's it for our show. Tell us what you think. Email us, tweet us, or leave a comment. We're always on at beatthepress.org.